Hello, welcome back to Dubeke Consults. And today we shall be attending to one of the frequent questions that has been asked by our followers, which is how to model curved beams and slab on Prota-Stucture. So if at any point you find this video interesting, do not forget to like it and subscribe to our channel. And if you have further challenges or questions you would like to ask, do not forget to drop it on the comment section. And you can also follow the link to our WhatsApp platform, where if you have problems during your design phases, you can always interact with other professionals and seek for help. Okay, so let's dive right into the problem for today. In order to achieve your desired curved result, the first thing you need to understand is how these structural elements can be modeled, right? So beams can be modeled paying respect only to grid lines, and that's to say you can only model beams with regards to grid lines. But your slab can be modeled paying respect to beams, it can be measured paying respect to your grid lines, and it can be measured paying respect to your polylines. Okay, so let's see how we can make use of all these concepts and arrive at your desired curve result. So since this is a mock project, I'm just going to insert the default grids that comes with Prota-Stucture. So I will come here to modeling and I will click on orthogonal axis uh, orthogonal axis generator. Then I will click anywhere on the screen and I'm just going to click OK. So it brings out my grid lines. Okay. So this is a default grid lines or axis line, as you may choose to call it. And what I'm going to do is I will insert random columns. I'm just going to insert columns all over this point. Okay, I'll also use the default column settings, right? Because what we are concerned about is the beams and the slab. So I'll insert this and let's begin with our beams. So I said earlier, our beams pay respect to grid lines. So that's to say, if you intend to model a beam, we'll come here and we intend to model a beam. I will leave this beam as my default at the default settings that comes with Prota. I will need to draw from a grid line to a grid line. Okay, so that is how beams behave. So if I intend to draw a beam here, as you can see, if I try to draw here, I won't be able to insert any beam. Okay, so I can pick randomly, and if I select this side, then I'll be able to draw my beams because I have grid lines here all intersecting at these different points. All right, so since we've understood that beams pay respect to grid lines, so it means whatever we need to do, there need to be grid lines around those places. So in order to model your curved beams, what you need to do is come here under this beam properties and you click on this part. You can see curved beam insertion, right? So all you need to do is click here, then you select your start of grid line and your end grid line, right? And you can take it to the either of this side, either up or down, just to meet with your requirements. You can as well type the length of your curve. If you press F2, I can take this to 1200 millimeter, and here I have my curved beam. Okay, but in order to be more precise, what I will advise you do, probably from the general arrangement phase, I will advise you model a curved grid line so that can serve as the boundary part of your beams, right? So what I mean by that is, if we come to modeling and if we come to grid, okay, you can see we have an option for insertion method here. We have an option for curved axis. So if we click here and we click this point to be the start of our axis and this point to be the end of our axis, so we can take it up to any required diameter. Okay, so what we need to do when we want to insert the curved beam in this case is just come here. We can leave it as curved, we can take it back to curved, then we'll select here, and we can take it to this endpoint. So in this case, it follows the exact and precise positions which your curve relates to. Okay, so it's advisable you do this from your general arrangement phase so you can have that exact diameter. So this is how you can insert your curved beams on Prota-Stucture. So let's come to the 3D view. We'll come here, right click, and let's insert a new view, 3D physical view. So as you can see, we have what our curved beams inserted. Let's turn off this grid line. So these are our curved beams. Okay, so this is how you can achieve your curved beams on Prota-Stucture. So let's move straight to inserting slabs. So as earlier said, our slab pays respect to beams, they also pay respect to grid lines, and they also pay respect to modeled polylines. Okay, so in the first case where we can make our curved slab is, let's insert beams here. Let's insert a beam here, and we can also insert another beam here. So if we come here to modeling and we click on slab and we just click here, you can see we will have a curved slab, right? We'll have this slab curved to this edge because it pays respect to this curved beam. So that is one way you can model your curved slab. Okay, it pays respect to the beams, and the next that it pays respect to is our grid lines. So if I also come here to grid and I model a curved grid, let's say I model from this point to this point and I put this here, right? I can click on slab and you will see if you try to snap to this grid line, because it can observe an intersection between this grid. Okay, we have one here and we have another one here. So what I need to do in this case is just click here, or I can come here to click at this point. Okay, so I will have two curved beams. Okay, this is one and this is one. Okay, so in order to achieve your curved slab, what you need to do is you can model those grid lines to suit the requirements of your curve from the general arrangement phase before exporting to Prota-Stucture, right? So the next you should be looking at is the polylines, and this polylines is responsible for most of the complex situations, right? So this is very advisable to use because you can use it to model any shape you desire, and you can use it to model any form, right? So in order to achieve that, what I'll need to do is I'll come to this polyline here, I'll click here and I'll select this. Let me start with this point, right? So I'll turn off my axis so it doesn't always snap to the axis, and I will use my F2. Let me use my F2. Let me work with a desired length, right? So I'll press F2 and I'll take the length of this to be 1 meter. Okay, let me take 1 meter, right? And I'll press tab to go to the angle. So I'm going on the straight line, so this has to be 0, right? So this is the first length, and I can come back here to, let me make this length, right? Let me make this length to be 500 or 600, right? So I'll make this, I'll press F2 and I can type 600. Okay, and I will press my tab. So I'm going down to, this will be minus 90 degrees, minus 90. Okay, so I can go back to this point and I want this part to, let me press F2. I'm going 500. Okay, and I'm also going on 0 degrees. So I can come here, right click, and I can say continue with arc, right? So you can see if I continue with arc, it will give me an option to continue as an arc, right? So I can put this arc here, then I can right click and I'll say continue with line, right? Then I can come back to this point, I can come back here. Okay, I'll just pick randomly. Okay, so you can do yours with you can do it with a very precise location. You can click here as well, then I'll right click and I will say close. Okay, so when I do this, I can come to my slab and I can insert my slab, right? So this is how you can model with your polylines. So you can use this to model various irregular shapes. So let me turn this back on and I will come to my 3D. So as you can see, this is my model, right? So you can do yours with very precise length And let me try this again. I'll come to polyline, right? So I'll click on polyline and I'll come to this point. Let me start here, right? Let me turn off this grid line so it doesn't snap to it. And I can put this here, right? I can right click, say continue with arc, and I can put this here, right click, I can say continue with line. I can put this here, right click, I continue with arc again. Okay, I can put this here, right click, I say continue with line, and I can put this to this point. Okay, if I say right click and I close this, if I come to my slab, so I can put my slab here, right? So this is how you can model your curved slab with polylines. So the next tip I'll be introducing to you is I can have something like this. If I come to modeling and I have a curved grid line, let's come to grid and I click on curved grid line here and I put it here. So I'm going to this extent. Okay, so in situations like this, if you intend to insert a slab, you can see that it will tend to snap to this grid line. So what if I intend to combine this slab with this other part? Okay, as you can see here, I can choose to combine these two parts, the rectangular part and the curved part, as a single slab and not different slabs. So what I need to do in this case is I will just come to insertion method and I will click on pick axis. Okay, so the next thing will be observing the grid lines that will be the boundaries of this slab, right? So if you observe the boundary of our proposed slab, we have it on this grid, this curved part, this as well. Okay, so I'm going to click on this as my start point because this is the first boundary and it will curve here and not on this part. Okay, so it will curve on this grid line, so I'll click on this. Okay, then it will come up on this grid line, so I'll click on this, right? So it will come to this part on this grid line. Okay, so I will come here and click on this. Okay, and the next thing is it will come back on the first grid line, which is our grid line 2. So once I click here, as you can see, this will be combined together as one single slab. All right, so that's all for today, and if you found this video helpful at any point, do not forget to like it, do not forget to subscribe and turn on our notification bell so you get notified anytime we post new videos on our channel.